All right, get this. We're about to do a deep dive into Rafael Nadal, and you know what's really interesting? You've sent us a ton of info from his Wikipedia page, but it's not just about his titles. You're going deeper into the man himself.
It's fascinating, isn't it? We're talking about someone who's achieved legendary status on the court, but there's this clear curiosity about what makes him tick beyond the trophies and the accolades.
Exactly. And one of the things that jumps out is how important family is to Nadal, especially in those early years. We're talking born and raised in Mallorca, parents who were entrepreneurs. You can almost feel this drive being instilled from day one.
It's more than just drive, though. His father had multiple businesses. His uncle was a professional footballer. This is a family that understood ambition, but also the value of hard work and pursuing your passions.
That's got to shape a young Rafa, right?
Totally. But here's where it gets wild. Nadal wasn't even obsessed with tennis at first. He was all about football. Imagine that alternate timeline where he's a midfield maestro instead of the king of clay. It's almost unfathomable considering his career, right? But it speaks to something inherent in Nadal, that athleticism, that competitive fire. You don't just stumble into becoming one of the greatest tennis players of all time. It's got to be woven into your DNA.
Okay, so how does young Rafa go from football fanatic to, oh, well, Rafael Nadal? Enter Uncle Tony, the coach who might be just as legendary as his nephew.
Tony's influence is undeniable, introducing Rafa to tennis at 3 years old, recognizing that raw talent. But here's the thing, he didn't coddle him. Their training regime was notoriously tough, pushing Nadal to his absolute limits, sometimes even further.
No kidding, I read about some of those drills, making Nadal pick up all the balls after everyone else was done. That's next level.
Some might call it harsh, sure, but look at the mental toughness Nadal plays with. The resilience he's shown throughout his career, battling back from injuries that would sideline other players for good. You can draw a direct line back to those early days with Tony.
That's a really good point. It's like they knew they were forging something special, even back then. And there's another fascinating detail about Nadal's development. He's naturally right-handed. Who decides to switch their dominant hand, especially in a sport like tennis?
And it wasn't Nadal's choice. This was a calculated decision by Uncle Tony when Rafa was still young. They saw the tactical advantage of being a left-handed player, the element of surprise it would bring to his game.
That's wild. Talk about shaping a champion. To have that kind of self-awareness, to embrace a strategy that unconventional even as a kid, tells you a lot about Nadal's mindset even then.
Exactly. And it wasn't just about the element of surprise. It played directly into his now legendary playing style.
Those heavy topspin forehands,
Right.
that aggressive baseline game.
Yeah,
It's almost like being left-handed gave him a whole new set of angles to work with.
absolutely.
And let's not forget that signature court coverage.
Yeah,
The guy's everywhere.
yeah.
But it wasn't always perfect, right? I read that early in his career, his serve was considered a weakness.
It's true. Many saw it as his Achilles heel, especially on faster surfaces like grass. But here's where you see that Nadal determination shine through. Instead of accepting it, he completely revamped his serve in 2010.
Wait, seriously? He changed his technique after already winning Grand Slams? That's incredible. Most players wouldn't even consider that.
Most players aren't Rafael Nadal. He went for a more aggressive, powerful serve. It was risky, no doubt, but it paid off. He added another weapon to his arsenal and defied those who thought his style wouldn't translate to other surfaces.
Talk about proving people wrong. So many predicted he'd be a clay court specialist, that his style would lead to burnout or injuries. But he's still here, still winning.
His resilience is part of what makes him so captivating. He's battled back from countless injuries, played through pain that would have most people sidelined. It makes you wonder what drives a person to push their body to those limits.
It's got to be more than just physical, right? That mental game is off the charts. And this might sound strange, but those on-court rituals he's famous for, the water bottles, the picking at his shorts, what's that all about? Is it superstition? OCD?
It's definitely sparked endless debate, but Nadal himself has said it's not about superstition, it's about focus. Each ritual is a way to shut out distractions, to find that mental space where he can perform at his best.
Interesting. So it's like his own personal reset button, getting him in the zone. And you can't talk about Nadal without mentioning his sportsmanship. Even his biggest rivals respect him.
Yeah.
And that's saying something in the world of professional tennis.
Absolutely. He's known for his humility, his respect for his opponents, win or lose. It goes back to those values instilled in him from a young age. He's a fierce competitor, but he never lets it overshadow his integrity.
Okay, so we've talked about the champion, the competitor. But what about Nadal, the person? Away from the court, the guy's got a huge heart. His work with the foundation, Rafa Nadal, is incredible.
It really is. using his platform to give back to help underprivileged children. It speaks volumes about his character. He could easily just enjoy the perks of fame, but he chooses to make a real difference.
And amidst all this, he's found time to build a family, marrying his long-term partner, Maria. It seems like he's got this incredible balance between his career and personal life.
Which is something he values deeply. He's spoken about the importance of staying grounded, of having that strong support system. It's a good reminder that even for someone who seems larger than life, those fundamental human connections still matter.
It's funny you mentioned larger than life because you know what really surprised me? Reading that Rafael Nadal, the guy who seems fearless on the court, actually has some pretty relatable fears.
Absolutely. He's talked about being afraid of dogs, thunderstorms, even deep water. It's a good reminder that even the greatest athletes are still human. They have insecurities, vulnerabilities, just like the rest of us.
And it brings us back to his family, doesn't it? They could have easily pushed him into the traditional tennis academy system, but they chose a different path.
Right. Instead of chasing sponsorships and throwing him into the international circuit, they kept his training local, focusing on his development as a person, not just a player. It was a gamble, but clearly it paid off.
It makes you wonder if there's a lesson here, not just for aspiring athletes, but for anyone trying to make their mark. Maybe the secret to success isn't always about following the well-trodden path, but about finding that balance between ambition and grounding yourself in what really matters.
That's a powerful takeaway, and it underscores the complexity of Nadal's story. He's not just this dominant force on the court. He's the result of a unique upbringing, a testament to the importance of family dedication and believing in yourself.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what stands out to you as the most defining aspect of Nadal's legacy? Is that sheer clay court dominance, the way he battles back from injuries year after year, or something deeper, something that transcends the sport itself?
It's a question I hope you'll keep asking yourself as you continue exploring Nadal's story. Because in the end, he's not just a tennis player. He's a reminder that greatness comes from a combination of talent, hard work, and the unwavering support of those who believe in you.
And that, my friend, is what makes Rafael Nadal more than just a clay court king.